Facebook Live here at the Mind Body Evolve studio. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Melissa Luboff, a fellow yogi that I've known for many years, and thank you for coming to join us today.
Thanks for having me in your gorgeous studio. You know how much I love the energy here.
You bring the good energy here. So today is a special day and a special weekend ahead because we are coming to celebrate International Yoga Day. It is this weekend on Sunday, and just an opportunity to share our journeys about what brought us to yoga, what yoga means for you, for me, and for those of you who are new to the practice, to discover what different styles are offered, because I think, you know, there's a lot of confusion. People tend to think yoga is similar to Pilates. I often get asked, what's the difference, and do I have to be flexible, and, you know, when to start.
Can't reach my toes.
Can't reach my toes, exactly. And I think, you know, the conversation is really just to debunk some of those myths and discuss what we offer. And Melissa, maybe just leading in with you, what led you to finding yoga in your life?
So interestingly, I was a very anxious child, not sleeping so well, and at about 12 my mom sent me to one of the ladies in the community. In those days you didn't really qualify as a yoga teacher. You kind of took what you had learned from other people and shared the teaching on, and I went for a few weeks. Loved it, but it overlapped with other things at school at the time, so I gave it up. And then in about 2011 I kept seeing a yoga teacher in the community, and I kept saying, I'm coming, you know, I'm coming. And then finally the one day I saw, I said, when is your next class? I don't care when it is, I'll be there. And from that first class, which I didn't really love, I'll be honest, something drew me. And it's just like 5 times a week, felt completely comfortable for me, essential almost, you know, from the different aspects of whatever it is I needed at that time. And so it's just slotted into my life, and probably more I've slotted into yoga. Absolutely. And that's what we were saying before we went on the live, that, you know, yoga is not something that you do as a student. It's not something that, it's not just something that we do or something that we teach. It's something that we become and identify as. And I say, you know, I don't do yoga, I am yoga. And that is, you know, where I've landed with this, and also been doing it, you know, I was thinking. Let's hear your story. I don't think I've ever heard it. I'm curious. Okay. Well, also I think as a child, I went to 1 or 2 yoga classes with my mom, and I don't know where and why I ever stopped that, but I rediscovered it when I got my driver's license, and there was an advert in classifieds, and I thought, let's go try a yoga class. And then I explored. I was really very, very fluid as a yogi. I went to some Bikram classes, 1 or 2 Ashtanga classes, Iyengar, and I was just trying to navigate and see what called me. And I was a yogi before I was a mother, before I got married. I think, you know, we identify as so many things, and often, you know, we just kind of forget where it all started. But I think, you know, the journey for me evolved when I was pregnant, and then I really kind of used to practice yoga every day and go to classes, and then I was considering doing a teacher training, and at that time I was doing an Ashtanga class with a teacher who, shame, she subsequently passed away, but she would say to me sometimes, can I teach for her, when she wasn't well? And I said, who am I to teach? And she said, you are meant to be teaching, you are going to teach my classes. And I was kind of thrown in the deep end, looked at different options, did my teacher training through Ishta in 2009. Gosh, it's a long time ago. And we're still going, so that's the wrap on that. Nice. And nice to have that through your pregnancies. I didn't, and I really feel like it could have supported me. You know, it wasn't in my realm at the time, but my body could really have done with it. And there wasn't much information, I must say. That's why I think I wrote and developed that pregnancy yoga teacher training thereafter, because I realized that we do need to know how to modify and make pregnancy yoga teaching safe.
But so that's one style of yoga that we practice. But I see some hearts, which is good. I wasn't sure if the live was actually recording, so thank you, whoever sent us a heart. But let's talk a bit about the different styles of yoga. People are familiar with terms like flow, align, and calm that the gym have made more understandable, which is a good thing. But I also think that, it's diluted because there's so many different beautiful yoga styles, and maybe just to go through some of those with you. I mean, what is your main practice, Melissa?
I teach, well, that's a good question, because what do I love teaching and what do I teach more of? So I would have said in the past, a while ago, it was more vinyasa flow. And then I just realized my body needed slower, more mindful practices. So I moved more to a hatha, with a little bit of flow brought in if I feel the energy of the class can do with a little bit more uplifting. If it's really cold, it's nice to take it a little deeper, a little faster. But what I'm loving teaching is my restore class. And although restorative is a known yoga practice for me and offered at your studio amongst others where I teach, it's a healing class.
It is.
It's time for you to totally unwind. Generally people walk in, they're not expecting, they're probably a little anxious that they're spending an hour here taking their time where they're not exercising, and they leave a different person. And I think you can speak for that more as the person who's attended my classes, as the holder of the space. That's what I'm looking to facilitate. I think we need it more and more in this world. We just don't stop. We are doing the whole time, and it's really a chance to be. I bring a lot of my trauma teachings, a lot of my trauma work that I've studied, and my embodiment work into those classes. So it takes it to a different level, not traditional, but I think that's something I have a little pet peeve with the gyms. I think each teacher brings in so much essence of their classes.
Your authenticity is,
and what the space they hold. The other class that I love teaching is actually the classes that are more based around supports and things like using the block or the foams or the chairs. Is more a supported class that's accessible for everybody. Can be pregnant, can be not able to even walk properly at the time, or bend down. A lot of people say to me, there's no way I can get on the mat.
Sure.
And that's more of the supported class that we're offering as well. So that is really one of my joys as well, because it makes yoga accessible for everybody.
And I love what you said, that it's about not just the doing. And I think, when people ask me what is yoga and why is it different from Pilates, and yes, there is a marriage between the two, and the one is stemmed from the other. However, yoga is a work in. It's a work in. It's not about the work out at all. You might sweat at the end of a flow class or feel your muscles burning in an align or in a yenga, but that's not the point. The whole point is that you can reach the end of your practice in Shavasana and lie down and feel safe in your body and feel warm and loved and accepted by all in the room. And that's the work in, and that's the essence of yoga. And I also want to talk a little bit about, before I think we'll still talk about some of the styles of yoga, but how we take what we learn on our mats into our everyday lives.
So how have you done it?
How do I embody yoga? I guess, I learn from my students. Honestly, my students are my teachers. And every day I think I find, I learn something from a student, and then I'll process it and think about it. But in real life, I think it's just about catching myself when I feel I'm off balance or I'm stressed, and then it's like, ooh, okay, what do you teach? What do you learn? You practice holding a pose, not being, for example, in a warrior 2, where you've got your arms open on either sides, and there's that tendency to pull yourself forward in one direction or get pulled backwards, and that happens in everyday lives. We're constantly pulled in different directions, and I think, to practice it on the mat where you're conscious mindful of what you're doing physically, you can take that out there and, you know, stop yourself and say, where am I being pulled forward? Where am I being pulled back? And hold on a minute. Stay in your lane. Find your drishti. You know, if you need to look, find your breath and reset and recenter. And also just not to judge myself too harshly. I think, as you say, we're all our biggest critics and have anxiety. No one is immune to those feelings and emotions within ourselves. And, you know, just to practice what you preach.
I think listening to you, what comes to mind is we're all human and we've all got challenges. Some, you know, are external, some are our own negative self-talk, a lot are. And that's where the beauty of all the different styles is for me, because on different days you're actually open or needing something different.
Yes, absolutely. Like, we don't eat the same food every day. Sometimes we feel like
ice
cream, sometimes a hot curry. It depends on the weather, it depends on your energy, on your mood. And, you know, I was even thinking, you know, what else do we have different styles of in life that's relatable? And, you know,
food is definitely one, yeah.
Food and our hair, you can have wavy
even
hair.
what you're wearing, you know, sometimes you feel like something a little bit more nurturing, and other times you want to feel freer. You were saying earlier how we dress smarter some days, and others you just want something loose and flowy, and that's exactly where the yoga fits in, you know. And I think that's what, when we align with ourselves and our intuition, and that's what I feel I really try and bring in for my students, is feel for you what this is. You know, someone next to you on the mat might be doing exactly the same pose, but it's not the same for them. They have a different embodied experience, and I think that's where you need to feel what is your best practice on that day, something fast and sweat building, and you feel like you've really worked out, and others where you lie on the mat for most of it and you've actually rejuvenated on a totally different level.
Absolutely, you've recharged by being still. And that's why I think practices like yoga restore and sound bath, where you just come to a place of stillness, would be like the style of going out in your pajamas, because you just should be completely settled, passive and comfortable. And, you know, I love that what you said, you know, sometimes you just need that dynamic movement where a flow class, you never know what's going to come next. The teacher's creating it as she goes. We don't know.
We don't know what's happening.
We don't know what's happening. We just feel it in our bodies and feel the energy in the room, and it's beautiful. And that's why I think a lot of us really enjoy that style. But there's a time and a place for all of it, and we've really tried to bring it all into the space. I mean, I've got Kundalini classes now on a Sunday that I never envisioned, and it just kind of welcomed itself within the space, and the community that are doing that class they really love it. And I mean, Kundalini yoga, it's got its own lineage, it's from its own gurus founded, and there's a lot of chanting and singing and
mudras that we don't use in our other styles.
We don't, yeah. And I've still got, you know what I love about there being so many different styles is you realize that even when you've practiced for 20 years or 30 years, you can always learn something. And you know, there's just so many different ways to dress yoga, to express yoga, whether you're calling it forest or heart yoga or restore, whatever you want to name it. At the end of the day, yoga means union and to yoke.
Exactly. And but there's that body mind that I feel like we really need to hone in on. That's what's lovely about offering different offerings, because Kundalini might not be something you want to do every week, but then you want to get once a month that, and then another offering another day. But as the weather's colder, you might feel you want something different. And I think we really need to open up to trying new things. You know, as you said, the food. How often, and I'm guilty of this, I go to a restaurant and I order the same thing every time. And it's very limiting, because I haven't tried different tastes on my palate necessarily, and you kind of get stuck in that, and you don't grow from that. You don't really, it's almost eating by rote or ordering by rote in your classes can become that if you're not really pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely. And that's why I think in our yoga community, and I can only say or speak for myself, but I believe there's never ever been a competition amongst instructors or schools, because I still want to go and practice at other schools or at the gym and take a different taste or flavor or interpretation of a pose, and use that, share it. And we do have a beautiful, in Johannesburg, we've got such a lovely community of yoga teachers. I've worked with many, we collaborate often, we've got courses we've developed together, which I'll share a bit more on later. But the fact that you can spread your love and magic here at another studio, at the gym, we're all doing that. And that's also, it's not like there's one meal at one restaurant. I think it's just
the offerings, and they change slightly depending on the environment. I think there's definitely that. The energy of the studio does change what the teacher offers. But personally, I've always felt that I will always learn something from a class. It's not always something I want to replicate. I'll learn something that I will take into another class, and I'll learn something I'll go, I will never do that. Now I know how it feels on the receiving end.
Right.
I feel a better teacher for knowing that. So I do think that it's important to have the different tastes for our growth as teachers. And I think as teachers, if we don't keep learning, we can't encourage our students. We embody the example.
That's it. That is the I am yoga.
Yeah.
Exactly, that embodiment. What other styles, Melissa? What should we talk about? Iyengar, Ashtanga, some of those?
So I actually love Iyengar. You hold the poses, your body is really encouraged to be in a specific position and to hold it and to really feel, and that's what I love about it. And I take that into my hatha or any of those, I
that's
feel
very
like
prop based.
Very prop based, and you actually learn, you have to put your ego aside. If you need 2 blocks to help you and the person next to you needs none, that's okay.
Or none.
Or none. Exactly. It's not to judge, it's not to judge yourself, it's not to judge the person in front of you, and the teachers are to hold the space for you to achieve your best pose in that moment, which can look totally different in an hour or a day.